Imagine standing in a crowded marketplace in 9th century Scandinavia. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, fear, and desperation. Around you, human beings are being prodded, examined, and haggled over like cattle. Welcome to the Thrall market, where Vikings bought and sold human souls for profit. But here's what will shock you. A young woman could be worth twice as much as a strong warrior. Why? The answer will disturb you more than you think. Before we dive into this dark chapter of history, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because today we're uncovering truths about Viking society that Hollywood never shows you. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why the economics of human misery shaped an entire civilization. The year is 845 AD. Viking longships slice through morning fog as they approach the Irish coast near Dublin. But these aren't just raiders seeking gold and glory, they're businessmen, and their most valuable cargo walks on two legs. The thrall trade wasn't just a side business for Vikings, it was the backbone of their entire economy. Picture this scene. Bjorn the Red stands on the wooden platform of Hedeby's slave market, the largest trading hub in Scandinavia. In his weathered hands he holds a rope tied around the neck of Red, a Saxon monk captured 3 months earlier during a raid on Lindisfarne. Bjorn's voice booms across the crowd of potential buyers. This one can read. He knows Latin, perfect for keeping your accounts or teaching your children. The bidding starts at 8 silver coins. Within minutes, it reaches 12. But wait. Let's pause this scene, because something crucial is happening here that reveals the twisted logic of the thrall economy. You see, Elred's literacy makes him valuable, but not as valuable as you might think. In the next pen over, a young Irish woman named Brigid is being examined by a wealthy merchant. She's illiterate, speaks no Norse, and has no special skills. Yet her starting price, 16 silver coins, double what the educated monk commanded. This wasn't an anomaly. Historical records from Iceland, Norway, and Denmark consistently show that young women, particularly those between 15 and 25 years old, commanded the highest prices in thrall markets. Why? The answer lies in the brutal mathematics of human exploitation. Let me take you inside the mind of Thorvald the merchant, one of Hedeby's most successful slave traders. As he evaluates potential purchases, he's calculating return on investment. A strong male thrall might live 10 to 15 years under harsh labor conditions, providing agricultural work, construction, or craftsmanship. But a young female thrall, she represents multiple revenue streams that could span decades. First, there's reproductive value. Every child she bears becomes property of her owner, future thralls to be sold or put to work. Historical sagas suggest that successful female thralls could produce 8 to 12 children during their fertile years. At current market prices, that's a potential goldmine for patient investors. But the economics get even more disturbing. Young women were often purchased specifically for sexual exploitation by wealthy Vikings who could afford multiple thralls. The Landnámabók, Iceland's Book of Settlements, casually mentions prominent Vikings who owned dozens of female thralls for this express purpose. Now, here's where it gets interesting from a historical perspective. The Vikings weren't unique in practicing slavery, but their approach was remarkably systematic and businesslike. They developed what we might recognize today as a sophisticated market economy built entirely on human trafficking. Let's return to our marketplace scene. The auctioneer calls out, "Next lot, 3 brothers from Frisia." The crowd murmurs appreciatively. Skilled Germanic craftsmen were highly prized, especially metalworkers and shipbuilders. These 3 might fetch 25 silver coins together, but sold separately, their value drops significantly. This reveals another crucial aspect of the thrall economy: bundling and market psychology. Families were often broken up not out of cruelty alone, but because market research showed individual sales maximized profit. Children separated from parents sold for higher prices because they were considered more malleable, easier to train for specific tasks. The geographical scope of this trade was staggering. Archaeological evidence from mass graves in England, Ireland, and France shows patterns consistent with large-scale slave raids. But the business didn't stop at acquisition. Vikings developed trade routes stretching from Greenland to Constantinople, with thralls as their primary export. Picture this. A Viking trader named Eric Bloodaxe stands in the great market of Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. He's traveled 3,000 miles down Russian rivers with a cargo of northern European slaves. The Byzantine merchants examine his human merchandise with the same attention they'd give to fine silk or precious spices. Here's what's fascinating. The price differentials we saw in Scandinavia flip completely in these distant markets. That educated Saxon monk who sold for 12 silver coins in Hedeby, in Constantinople, his literacy in Latin makes him worth 30 gold solidi, enough to buy a small farm back home. But our Irish woman Brigid faces a different fate. In the harems and households of wealthy Byzantines or Arab merchants, her exotic northern appearance and fair skin make her a luxury commodity. She might sell for 50 gold solidi, or more, 10 times her original purchase price. This price arbitrage drove the entire Viking expansion. They weren't just raiders or explorers, they were human traffickers, operating on an international scale, exploiting price differences across markets separated by thousands of miles. The logistics were as impressive as they were horrifying. Thrall ships required special modifications, reinforced holds with iron rings for chains, extra food storage for human cargo, and armed guards to prevent revolts. The Vikings developed a whole infrastructure around human misery. But here's something that might surprise you. Not all thralls remained slaves forever. The Icelandic sagas tell us about thralls who earned their freedom through exceptional service, military prowess, or by saving enough to buy their liberation. Some even became successful merchants or farmers themselves. However, this possibility of freedom came with a catch that reveals the sophisticated psychology of Viking slavery. Hope itself became a tool of control. By dangling the possibility of eventual freedom, masters could extract decades of loyal service from thralls who might otherwise rebel or attempt escape. The seasonal nature of Viking raiding created boom and bust cycles in the thrall markets. Spring brought fresh captives from winter raids, flooding markets and driving down prices. Smart investors would buy in bulk during these gluts, holding thralls through the summer working season, then selling them at premium prices in autumn, when demand peaked for household servants during the long winter months. Women's prices fluctuated based on even more disturbing factors. Pregnancy actually increased a female thrall's value in some markets, as buyers received 2 slaves for the price of 1. However, older women past childbearing age saw their value plummet, often selling for less than children. The psychological trauma of these markets extended beyond the obvious horror of being sold like livestock. Families were systematically destroyed as economic units. Children watched their parents sold to different buyers, never to see them again. Parents faced impossible choices: resist and face brutal punishment, or comply and hope their cooperation might somehow protect their children. Now, here's something that will chill you to the bone. The Vikings developed quality control standards for their human merchandise. Thralls were graded based on physical condition, age, skills, and origin. Irish and English captives commanded premium prices due to their perceived beauty and temperament. Slavic peoples, whose very name gives us our word slave, were considered best for heavy labor. The economic impact of this trade on Viking society cannot be overstated. Wealth from thrall trading funded the great halls, the elaborate burial ships, and the military expeditions that define our image of Viking culture. Every piece of silver jewelry, every ornate weapon, every carved runestone was potentially purchased with profits from human suffering. But perhaps most disturbing of all is how normalized this became. Archaeological evidence suggests that by the 10th century, approximately 30% of Scandinavian society consisted of thralls. Entire communities were built on slave labor, with free Vikings living lives of relative leisure supported by the forced work of captured peoples. The market forces that drove these prices tell us something profound about human nature and economics. Even in societies we might view as primitive, people understood supply and demand, arbitrage, and market manipulation. They just applied these principles to buying and selling human beings. As we near the end of our journey through this dark marketplace, remember that these weren't abstract economic theories, they were real people, with names, families, dreams, and fears. Every transaction represented a life destroyed, a family shattered, a future stolen. The thrall markets of Viking Scandinavia remind us that economic systems can amplify both human ingenuity and human cruelty. The same market forces that drive innovation and prosperity today once turned human beings into commodities with price tags. So the next time someone romanticizes Viking culture or talks about their entrepreneurial spirit, remember the thrall markets. Remember Atalred the monk, Brigid the Irish woman, and the thousands of nameless others who suffered so that their captors could profit. What do you think about this hidden side of Viking society? Does it change how you view their culture and achievements? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from history that textbooks often skip. Because sometimes, the most important lessons come from the darkest chapters of our past. But before you go, here's something that will leave you thinking. If economic incentives could turn Viking warriors into systematic human traffickers, what does that tell us about the systems we live under today? The answer to that question, well, that's a story for another video.